In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL 30A, section 20, relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency, the February 10th, 2021 public meeting of the Master Plan Implementation Committee shall be physically closed to the public to avoid group congregation. However, to view this meeting in progress, please go to facebook.com/LakeCAM. You do not need a Facebook account to view the meeting. This meeting will be recorded and available to be viewed at a later date at http://www.lakecam.tv/. And I'd like to announce the members in attendance to this meeting: Rodney Dixon, the chair; James Rogers, co-chair; Joseph Chamberlain, Patrick Marshall, Rita Garbett, and we have a guest this evening, Michelle Mcgeckern.
Well, me.
Did I miss anyone? Jack Lynch, Mr. Jack Lynch. Thank you, sir. Okay. Can everyone hear us? Are we good?
We're good.
All right. Thank you so much. So I'll read the agenda items and then we will jump into the agenda. So first, approve the meeting minutes for February 28th, 2020 and January 25th, 2021, followed by update on planning board approval of the master plan dated July 23rd of 2020, review requests from planning board member Michelle Mcgeckern to review the Development Opportunities District, the DOD, zoning bylaw, and to send a memo to the planning board with the Master Plan Implementation Committee's comments. Item 5, review the Master Plan Implementation Matrix and update the goals and strategies which have been accomplished since the plan was published. Item 6, discuss next steps. Item 7, schedule the next 3 meetings. Item 8, new business. Item 9, old business. Item 10, any business that may properly come before the meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes from February 28th and January 25th of 2021?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I will move that we approve the minutes to February 28th, 2020.
Do we have a second? All in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously to approve the meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the January 25th, 2021 minutes with one correction that I discovered earlier.
Call from Mcgeckern.
Yes, you may. Rita, are you speaking at this time?
Is my pic, can you see me?
Negative.
Okay,
We can hear you though.
I can see you. I don't know what happened. I'll second that, and I made the correction already.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, motion, all in favor, aye.
Oh, there I am.
Aye.
We have to do a roll call vote, each person saying their name.
Ah, that's right. Thank you for the reminder. Shall we start over with the January meeting minutes to make it official with a roll call?
February 28th, you mean?
You mean for the February 28th ones?
I did not read the roll call earlier for the January ones
Or the February?
or the February. That is correct. So roll call, you just to reconfirm, you want me to read the names or do you want each individual to speak their name?
Each individual is okay.
Okay. Rodney Dixon.
Rita Garbett. Aye.
Patrick Marshall, aye.
Jack Lynch, aye.
Chamberlain, aye.
Jack Lynch, aye.
James Rogers, aye.
Okay.
Motion, thank you. Next motion.
The approval of the January 25th, 2021 meeting minutes with the correction I should mention was just with the end time. It was listed as 7:50 something, and I believe it should be 8, Rita?
8:52.
8:52.
I was an hour off.
So I'd make that motion to correct them with that time change.
Seconded.
Second? Okay. All in favor, aye. Rodney Dixon, aye.
Rita,
James Rogers, aye.
Jack Lynch, aye.
Joe Chamberlain, aye.
Rita, I.
Okay. Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. All right. So item number 3 on the agenda is to update on planning board approval of the master plan dated July 23rd of 2020. Rita, do you want to read that, or how do you
Well,
want to do this?
I just wanted the board to know that, or the committee to know that Zinc had brought it back to the planning board, but it didn't get approved until July 23rd, and all the members were in favor of it.
Right, thank you. And speaking of Zinc, I'd like to go on the record, to say thank you to him. It's a big loss for the town, of course, and our thoughts and prayers do go out to the family. We will miss him, and I just wanted to make sure that we got that on the record to let everybody know. Thank you. Item number 4, review request from planning board member Michelle Mcgeckern to review the Development Opportunities District zoning bylaw and to send a memo to the planning board with the Mpeg comment. So Michelle, do you want to read that, or do you want me to read the email? How would you prefer? Or can I do that? I should say, Rita, can I do that? Have her read it since it's her email?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, please.
Okay. It may take me a minute to find it. I don't have it up right now.
It's okay. I think we have it in the packet. Stand by.
Okay.
You want to read it? I have it in front of me.
Yeah, it's at the end. Here we go. All right, I can read it. This is from an email dated February 1st, 2021 from Michelle Mcgeckern, subject planning board /DOD. Good morning, Rodney. I asked Rich for your contact information because the planning board at our last meeting had a discussion regarding the Development Opportunities District zoning bylaw. We are considering, quote, reining in the DOD, which currently overlays the entire town, so that large industrial type developments would not be able to pop up all over town wherever 25 acres or more exists. One of the considerations was in regards to narrowing the location of the DOD to certain areas of town within close proximity to highway on and off ramps. The other consideration was in regards to doing away with the DOD altogether. Barbara brought up the idea of reaching out to the Master Plan Implementation Committee to find out how this would be received, or whether there is something else to consider regarding if the DOD is important to the town master plan. From what I can see in the master plan and supporting appendix documents, the main areas of town which are seen as priority for development are the old hospital property and the old Dewey's site. Would you be willing to prepare a memo that could be shared with the planning board in regards to how the DOD affects the master plan? And if there are any thoughts you would like the planning board to consider during our next discussion regarding the DOD, we would very much appreciate any input you provide. Thank you. That concludes the email.
Rodney,
Yes, ma'am.
if I could just say something, Jim, were you on the master plan back in 2012?
Yes, just started.
The DOD, or the Development Opportunities District, I think was brought forward to the town by Serped.
I believe so.
And I think the building commissioner at the time was the chairman, Bob Iafredi.
Correct. Yep.
And weren't we looking at, we wanted the Lakeville Hospital to get developed? Because I think there's been questions about how did this bylaw come into existence? And I'm pretty sure Serped brought it forward. And that's just, I just wanted to, because I know a lot of people are asking where, they're trying to find the tape from the town meeting back in June of 2012 for the discussion of it. And from my recollection, that's how this development district came about.
My memory's foggy, but I believe you're correct.
Okay,
I believe Serpent did bring it up from that standpoint.
okay.
Thank you. Michelle, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think, I don't want to restate the email, but is there any background or value to having this development overlay over the entire town as opposed to having it in certain areas near the highway? Specifically, the two areas that we've discussed were the Planned Special Purpose District, which is near like the Ocean Spray area, and then also the mixed use development or zone, I should say, which is where the old hospital is. So we were talking about narrowing it down to those two areas, and Peter Conroy, a planning board member, said, what if we just do away with it altogether now that there's, proposed development for the hospital site? Is there any reason to keep it in place throughout the town at this point? So I think it's something worth considering or worth at least discussing. We've seen quite a bit of pushback against development, so any input from you guys would be appreciated.
Thank you. Does any of the members want to speak to this? I have a quick comment. I know about development in particular. Zinc was passionate about development, and we've raised as a committee and me personally to Zinc about development insofar as building appearance. As an example, developers can come in. One of the examples was Walgreens, just as an example. My understanding was there were different plans that were more in the New England style of buildings, but it was never discussed. So they came in, they put up what they put up, and then it was only either partway or maybe even when it was near completion that there was an option. Same with dollar store and like kind of the appearance and stuff. And what my opinion was, and my comment to Zinc at the time, was something to the effect that if we work with the developers, have friendly relationships, but let them know our vision for the town, what it's, what we envision it, we the people of Lakeville envision it to look like, especially the buildings. And one of the examples I used was Cape Cod. Cape Cod is famous for saying, hey, it's got to look a certain way, whether it's cedar shingles or whatever. So that's the part that we had spoke about with Zinc several times. With regards to development in general, I just heard a couple of days ago some scuttlebutt, how scuttlebutt goes, but that Amazon is interested in the property that's the former Lakeville Hospital. Now, again, that's scuttlebutt. It's hearsay, nothing official that I've heard or read. But my concern would be if that is the case, then it should be brought to the town and discussed. But with regards to the DOD in particular, You know, we need to really discuss the features and the benefits.
I mean, I think that the question that I'm not sure of, since it's been so long, what's the purpose and intent of the DOD? I mean, is it to create a design platform for buildings within town, or to manage development, as you mentioned, 25 acres or more? So I'm not sure what the focus is supposed to be of DOD. Because if it's 25 acres or more, that's a whole different issue. If it's to talk about development, building limitations, then, you know, I have a whole different issue with it.
Yeah, my understanding is it's the 25 acres or more. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, it is. And let me pull it. I have it right here.
I've got the document right here in front of me.
Yeah, so it's more along the lines of, you know, manufacturing, warehouse, public service, hotel, motel, research, development, office building, medical center, country club, retail,
Right.
service business, theaters, restaurants, you know, to be used in a larger, or to be built in a larger area.
Something on the scale of the Kenneth Welsh Drive complex of that size?
Well, it has to be 25 acres or more.
Yep.
According to this document, it could be a lot, you know, could be a lot smaller than the Kenneth Welsh property. You're talking just a hotel or a motel or an office building or a medical center, which would be much smaller.
Right, and that's why I'm asking the question. Because this said 25 acres or more, but on the other side of it, my understanding was it could be used for hotels or smaller manufacturing facilities, which might take up 4 or 5 acres or 6 acres. I'm not sure what the scope of the DOD is supposed to be.
Well, that's what this document says here on page 89. It says hotel or motel, research and development, office building, medical center, trade or professional school, a country club. Those would be a lot smaller than the Kenneth Welsh.
Correct. Yep.
And I would think this town would not be opposed to those.
Well, I don't think the town is opposed to it. That's why I'm raising the question, because if it said not able to be pop up all over town wherever 25 acres or more exists. So we're not really talking about 25 acres or more. We're talking about individualized buildings of 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 acres at the most, developments of those kinds of situations. And then we'd want to govern somehow the management of the construction along with the developer to make it, you know, have a consistent appearance, consistent with the town's requirements. That's why I was trying to get to the 25 acres or more. It's not, that's not it. There's no limitations on it. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chamberlain.
Question, I'm not sure who I should direct this to. Is there some kind of an assumption that on this 25 acre thing, that there be a sole thing built? I mean, why can't there be 6 buildings on that site? Are we assuming it's going to be a single occupant of a 25 acre site? Is that the assumption?
That's a question.
Because, you know, you're saying a hotel only needs maybe 4 acres, if even that, for the footprint of the building plus parking around it. Well, you build a hotel somewhere and it tends to bring in other buildings, right?
Right.
You don't usually see a hotel sitting all by itself out in the Great Plains or something. There's usually things around it. So, you know, the 25 acres, you know, it looks like there's this assumption that there can only be one sole occupant of that 25 acres. I don't think that's the intent of the thing.
Yeah, and what's going through my head right now is down near Wareham Crossing. That's a perfect example.
Yep.
There wasn't a whole lot there, and then the hotel came in and the eateries popped up, and it just kind of ballooned, and then apartment buildings came in, and
Yep.
so that's what's in my head right now when you speak to that about, yeah, right, one thing may lead to another. So I mean, I don't know enough about it. I would defer to Mr. Lynch or Ms. Mcgeckern if they could could speak to it.
And that thing that you just referenced, Rodney, is a perfect example because you can't get any closer to a highway exit ramp than that right there.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, it doesn't limit it to one,
Correct.
use, I guess. So it could be any number of combinations, I would guess.
But I think, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, that the DOD, I'm getting an echo.
Some feedback. Does somebody have a telephone on?
Jack, why'd you call him with your phone?
Right?
Sorry about that.
No, it's
So-
all good.
Jack, you'll need to disconnect your phone.
I
Thanks.
have no audio.
But as far as the DOD is concerned,
No, I have no audio.
I'm sorry, Jack.
it could start with one building somewhere, and then you can build up around it. So it doesn't really matter whether it's 25 acres in the immediate first development or 25 acres somewhere down the road. It doesn't matter. So that limitation shouldn't necessarily be part of it. The other part of it is that if that's true, then why do we have it?
Right.
Well, the other part of it is that this is over the entire town. So regardless of whether the underlying district is residential, commercial, business, et cetera, this sort of industrial use can go in as long as there is a parcel that size. So that was the sort of drive behind wanting to rein it in to certain areas where industrial uses like this would be close to a highway as opposed to causing traffic of, Mack trucks going through town, all back roads or whatnot. So that was sort of the thought behind reining it in, bringing it close to highway exit ramps, because this in itself is its own district over the whole town. And these uses can be, could be small, could be large, but when you have a large parcel, you're going to be more likely to utilize more of that space rather than not, it's
So-
gonna be more beneficial to.
So there's a huge parcel of property off of Freetown Street. Is that as an example? That is, I live in that area. That is right near the highway. And so Mr. Lynch, could you mute your, please? Thank you. So that immediately comes to mind. So we'd have to first of all know where are the 25 acres available, how many, where are the locations. I can't rattle them off right now. That would be one thing. And then say, okay, how much of a threat is it? And then is it possible in the future where some parcels can be combined to make 25 acres and then that come in? The third thing, kind of when I'm sitting here talking to you about this was, restricting it to area like the marijuana businesses come to mind, where, initially it was, well, we don't really want this, but then the town voted on it. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to actually vote to have it, but only in a certain area. So, but now they're popping up all over the place. So, again, I go back to Jim and say, really, what's the purpose? And is it worth it? If it's overlaying the entire town, I think it bears, what we call a deep dive to look at it and see what the implications are. Because if it overlays the whole town, then everyone's fair game that's got 25 acres or more. And I can't speak obviously, for everyone, but for me personally, that would be a concern, because we want to manage growth. We want to invite developers. We want to have the growth, as people have stated many times, but manage it. And if it needs to look a certain way, those are the things within our control as a town. But right now, the DOD, if it's been there for Rita, what did you say, since 2012, I think you said? Jim?
Yeah, I believe it was 2012.
Yeah,
2012.
yeah.
It would seem to me that also just gives away a lot of the town's say as far as development too. If that district is over the whole town as well, that I would tend to agree with either reining it in at the very least or getting rid of it in general. I mean, the developments could still come in, and at least the town would have a bit more control. And a lot of those areas that may have 25 acres don't have the utilities to be developed anyway. So what's the point of having the development ability in an area that doesn't have water, sewerage, whatever, is needed in that sense. So.
Right, because we don't have the town, like exactly, we don't have that. And I know, Rita, we had an IMA with Middleborough, but that's only for a portion of town, correct? The intermunicipality agreement.
We don't.
Go ahead.
We don't have one with Middleborough. We have an intermunicipal with the city of Taunton.
City of Taunton, okay, sorry, my stand corrected, thank you. So, right, Patrick, I agree with you 100%. So I think the consensus would be, at least, we need to do, again, a deep dive. And then the question is how to, what's the mechanism to either modify or eliminate the DOD? So those procedures would obviously have to be followed. And again, I've said this since day one, be transparent. Let people make informed decisions, the pros and the cons. Why was it created? What was the original intent? Has the intent changed? And let people make up, again, if it has to go to a vote. Rita, you can speak better than I can about this, but the procedural part of it, still, we have to be transparent and let people know what's going on.
I could speak to that, Rodney. If it was the planning board that wanted to amend our current zoning bylaw, a warrant article would have to be drafted, go to the Board of Selectmen. The planning board would have to hold a public hearing at least 60 days prior to an annual or special town meeting. So there is a legal process. But I don't know, has the planning board met with the Board of Selectmen to discuss it, Michelle?
We have not, and actually that 60 days, I was not aware that it was a 60 days. We were considering, I'm sorry?
It might be 65.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we were discussing to bring it to warrant for the next town meeting. So I think depending on when that is.
I believe warrant articles have to be to the selectmen.
I think it's March.
March 14th.
Yeah, something.
Second. So I would, but someone has to draft what,
Right.
you have to look at what changes you want town council should be involved.
Mhm.
So check with the Board of Selectmen if they want to go forward with, amending it, maybe they could have town council draft the bylaw change.
Right. And so that's kind of where we are at right now, in gathering information as to, do we limit it to certain areas or do we look to get rid of it? So I think, if you were to, give the planning board a memo, would it, what would that look like? Would it say, yes, consider, specifying where it could be, or doing away with it altogether?
And if the decision is to do away with it, that's an easy warrant article, vote to rescind zoning bylaw number such and such. That would be very easy. But to amend it to just overlay certain parts of the town, I'm not quite sure how that would be worded.
Right. And I did reach out to town council in regards to this, and I'll have to circle back.
Yeah, but amending it would mean we'd have to do, if we were going to be involved in the process, somebody'd have to do Rodney's deep dive as to where in town it would be effective, or we'd wanted to apply it. And again, it's going to take more than a few days to do that, to take a quick look at it and to say, yes, what changed, why, and why are we changing it now? So that from our standpoint, you really got to look at what's the effectiveness of the DOD? Are we using it? Are we applying it? Are we doing anything with it at all? In talking with developers, are we using this as a guideline or a tool? If we're not, then we ought to really look at what the option is of going away with it. If it's a useful tool in working with developers, okay. But if it's not, and we're not using it or applying it, then
Yeah, and Jen, to piggyback on that too, Michelle, if this,
Jack's got something you got to say too.
it's okay. Yeah, I'll get more.
Yeah.
So if the sleeping dog, what's it? Let the sleeping dog lie.
Yep.
Is the term. So if it's been quiet, hasn't come up since 2012, why now?
Well, it's gained a lot of, I'd say, a lot more, because of this proposed hospital redevelopment. I think more people are aware of it, and you've seen the development in the past year. And so I think to say let the sleeping dog lie with this sort of thing,
No, I'm asking, it was lying. It's just all of a sudden what you just answered it. It's starting to be talked about. And like I said earlier, there was some scuttlebutt about Amazon coming in, or showing interest, not coming in, but showing interest for that property. Well, if their criteria is they need X number of acres, and there might be 25, again, off Freetown Street is the first one that comes to my mind. I live right up the street. Do I really, from a traffic flow, it's already getting worse because of, the application Waze as an example. So people use Waze to cut through that part of town. And we've seen a significant increase in traffic. Just, of course, anecdotally, I have no study information, but we can only imagine the amount of traffic if a business were to go into that area. And then how is it going to, our lifestyle and property values and, and everything else that people have expressed over and over again about Lakeville. They like the charm, they like the rural character, they want to manage growth, they want to have open space. I mean, there's a lot to it. And in one ill-placed development, industrial in nature, can really negatively affect the town and the character. So that's just my 2 cents.
Rod?
Yes, sir.
Rita might be able to answer this question. I have a memory of one of the reasons that we wanted to do that DOD 25 acres or more was to avoid so-called spot zoning. Am I correct in remembering that?
I don't remember that at all. But you know who is knowledgeable, I'm sure, on the DOD, he knows our zoning bylaw, is our building commissioner.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to invite him to our next meeting.
Yes.
No, to enlighten us and make a decision on what we should put in that memo to the planning board. And I
absolutely think so.
Time is of the essence.
Yes.
For the planning board to forward something to the Board of Selectmen. But then we always have the special town meeting also just before the annual. And that warrant submittal, article submittal falls later than the March deadline.
And I'd rather take the time and do it right than rush it and not do it right, if that's what it comes down to. And I think Mr. Chamberlain, I thank you for that insight. And I would say we most definitely should get the building commissioner involved at our next meeting. We can have some of the conversations. So, all right.
Can I
Any-
ask a question, Michelle? What is the planning board's thoughts?
Well, like I said, we had talked about limiting it to those two areas, the planned special purpose and the mixed-use development areas, which are right off of the
Mhm.
495 exits. And then, like I said, the last meeting, Peter mentioned, what if we do away with it altogether, since we do, it seems like the purpose of this district was possibly for the hospital site. So at this point, could we do away with it? And then, Barbara said, let's think about, all angles. Let's see what Master Plan Implementation Committee has to say. If there's any other insight, that we're missing. And I mean, one of the things that I know we have discussed is that if it's a detrimental use to a certain neighborhood, we don't have to grant a permit for it, a special
Right.
permit for it. But then you come to that issue of, do we have a legitimate reason to deny a special permit as well? So those are all, parts of this as well. And yeah, I mean, I agree. Nate Darling is a valuable asset to this town, and his input is always appreciated. And if you guys, can get some, feedback for us, it's appreciated.
I think the other thing to remember too is, as we learned in our discussion with the Board of Selectmen last week or the week before, a lot of these areas too have seen that massive amount of development already, as opposed to when this was installed back in 2012. So I think that's something we should also consider too in our recommendation.
Michelle, where is this 25-acre parameter in the bylaws here? I'm having difficulty finding it. Is it in these bylaws? No.
Yes, it is here. It's right.
I mean,
I want to say it's the paragraph right up above.
I'm looking on page 89 and 90. Maybe my eyesight's not too good because I couldn't see it, but it's not that big of an issue. But I couldn't see it on here because I know that the 25-acre issue kept coming up in the discussions. I was just wondering where about that was so noted. I mean, I'm new to all of this, so you have to bear with me.
Rodney, I'll copy the bylaw, that section of the zoning bylaw, and forward it to all the members so that you can look at it beforehand.
Thanks, Rita.
All right.
Thank you, Rita.
All right. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay. Michelle, you're absolutely welcome to stay on. We would, I think you're one of the few guests that we've had to this meeting. We appreciate it. Sounds like we have a fan club, which is a good thing. We'll take it. I thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time. We know you're busy, but thank you so much for taking the time out to join us this evening.
Well, thank you for having, and honestly, I did, they did nominate me as an alternate member, so, for the planning board, so, because, why not?
And you are always welcome. Go ahead, Patrick.
So when I don't perform, she gets to fill in.
Oh, Mr. Lynch, yes, absolutely. But also, Michelle, anyone is welcome to this meeting. I believe in brevity. We typically run around an hour for this meeting if we're hitting on all cylinders. So we like to keep it short and sweet and to the point. So we'd love to have you, and anybody else who's out there in Facebook land or on LakeCAM, we'd love to have you join. Okay, so moving forward. Item number 5, review the master plan implementation matrix. and update the goals and strategies which have been accomplished since the plan was published. Okay.
Read it.
Having technical
You're on
difficulties.
mute, Rita.
I did reach out to Tracy Craig today to see if she'd received the Word document from Serped. She thinks she has. She said she'll check tomorrow. So I just wanted, I know Jim was keeping track of those 10 items that we completed.
Yeah,
So I went through, did anybody look at the action plan I sent all of you? I tried to
Yes.
make notes, what ones were completed, what ones we need to pursue. So I'm thinking if Tracy sends me the Word document, how does the committee feel like if I make another column at the end or at the beginning, maybe, to just say completed?
well, didn't we do this in the original one? If my memory serves, when I first joined Mpeg, I believe we had a column or a call. I'm not sure if it was accomplished or not, but it was something to the effect of, I think it was like with the dollar amount or the effort, or I vaguely remember.
Well, we did have dollar amounts in the printed, the 2005 version.
Okay.
What I did is, because I didn't have the Word document, I made the notes on every single column of what had been completed.
There you go. Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, you
So-
did see that.
One of the things that was brought to light, and I'm glad you mentioned about the matrix and accountability and authority, you know, to do this. It's important because, you know, when we met with the selectmen and we thanked them for, you know, for inviting us, but we learned a great deal about what was done. And had we not had that meeting, in part, you know, I accept the responsibility for not scheduling the meetings, plural, during the last year. I accept that responsibility. Had we had those, I think we may have learned about our accomplishments as a town. And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 10 accomplishments.
Well, I counted 10. There might have been more.
Yeah. I counted 10 too. I kind of like, my head started spinning, but we had accomplishments and we need to tout these accomplishments. But furthermore, we need to update the plan. And maybe we should have a column, accomplished, or something to the effect of that, where we can reference it. So when the end user is looking at the plan, they can say, oh, this is what it is, kind of what our vision is, so forth, and then say, oh, was this accomplished? And once it's accomplished, how is it going to affect the next section or other sections of the plan? And Michelle, you know, you heard me during the selectmen's meeting, but we want this to be an interactive, live, not sitting on a shelf static thing, because there's a lot of work that went into this plan. And, you know, now we got to leverage the technology and say, all right, let's tout our successes. Let's do these things. This is what we've done, and get people involved. And I think before a few weeks ago, and I haven't checked since, we only had 13 hits on the master plan in a year. And part of that was where it was or where it was not. And it wasn't easily accessible. So I think that has been corrected. So I'm curious to see the number of hits. But if we can make it interactive and have it done, who's going to do it? Who can do it? If Rita said she can do it in a Word document, I'll take it. I would be happy to have her do that.
Rodney, if I can, one of the things that's part of the discussion, I think I sent an email to you, at least from my standpoint, is there's no reporting accountability from any of the groups to let us know what they have done. It was a surprise to us when we went to selectmen's meeting and they suddenly said, oh yeah, that was supposed to be 2 years from now. It's already done or in process.
Right.
So somewhere along the line, either we have to set up a communication quarterly, once a year, every 6 months with all of the groups who participated to bring forth that information so we can update it and Rita can update it. And that way we can tout to the town what the accomplishments have been and what changed. Because some of the times, some of the things that the selectmen mentioned, I would not have thought, quite frankly, would have been done right now.
Right.
So I think it's just a matter of us trying to collect some information from these committees and update the group, give it to Rita to update. If it's cut in word, we can always bring something forward and push it back. But we don't know, we also don't know what changed and why something else may have been done, something else been put off.
Right, and thank you, Jim, for that, and I appreciate it, and I was remiss in not mentioning that earlier. Yes, we have the town administrator supposed to be on the master plan implementation committee. We've got now a planning board member on the committee. That's nice, and that we really appreciate it, but you're absolutely right. Who's responsible? What is the mechanism? And the frequency? I think, and this is just, I'm speaking out loud, we have weekly directors meetings at my place of employment. So every week we do our meeting minutes, we have the actionable items, the responsible party, and the follow-up, and we report out each week. And if we can formalize that process with the town, and whether it be a committee, a commission, or the Board of Selectmen, we need to formalize it, get it in writing, and then implement it sooner rather than later. Because yes, I was very happy like you. Wow, this is great. We had 10 accomplishments. This is awesome. But we never knew about them. And truth be told, I don't watch the meetings. If I did, I'd have to watch all of the meetings, and that's a huge amount of time to do that, to really gather that information. So great observation. I appreciate your input. What do the other members think? You all in agreement about making this happen sooner rather than later and help identify a process?
Well, I'm new to all of this, and I'm new to the planning board. I only haven't been there since July.
Yeah.
And I find that having come from the corporate world, having worked for Starwood Hotels for 43 years, where, like you spoke before about having board of directors meetings and all the different departments have meetings, so we communicate back and forth what's happening in one department as it may relate to another department. I find that somewhat missing. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn in the town, that as we work within the planning board, it doesn't seem that we have much interaction with conservation committee or with you folks or some of the other departments. I'm not even familiar with all the other departments in the town. And it seems that we sometimes are working in a vacuum and not working collaboratively, or at least communicating in effect as to what we're doing and what are you guys doing and how do you relate to that? How do you think this is good? How is it going to interact and overlay with what you folks are doing?
Right.
That's just my
Yeah, and we use the word silo, at the hospital that I work in. We're working in our silos, and we really need to have bi-directional communication, and more frequently than what we do. Again, it's good for everybody, and it's also a way to let people know this isn't just a plan. This is an actionable item. It's a living, breathing document.
If I may, Rodney,
Yeah, absolutely.
with the 2005 master plan, because we're the implementation committee, it's our responsibility to follow up with each department or board or committee that's listed in the action plan. And we met pretty much every month. And we did go through the channels to have planning board bring things to town meeting, board of selectmen. So I think your idea of a quarterly meeting to send out memos quarterly, once we determine, because we do have to change some of the things on the timeline. such as the planning board's rules and regulations, they've needed to be updated since the 2005 master plan. And the design bylaw was on our 2005 master plan. You know, and really for us to decide what did we say is going to be done in 2020? Go down the land use, economic development, and follow up with those different boards and committees. We can't do all the work, but we can make sure each committee is tasked with what they're supposed to be doing in the plan.
If my memory serves, it took us pretty close to a year to meet with all of them. So individually, when we were getting their updates, if my memory serves, it was just about a year.
Probably a year and a half.
Well, a year and a half. There you go, even better. So even if we met with one or maybe even two departments potentially each month or each quarter, that would be a huge improvement.
I'm not sure you have to meet with them, but you have to get updated quarterly as to what they're doing. And
whatever the mechanism is, Jim.
Right, but the thing of it is, if we do that, you know, you're going to get a gain from us understanding what the changes are, but you also, I use my famous sign in front of the old town hall.
Yeah.
You can always put it up there saying, do you know what has changed in the master plan?
Right.
Put it in front of the people, because the people don't know what the hell is going on. And I think Jack mentioned it the last time when we were on, that a lot of some of the people that he's dealing with don't know what's going on.
Right.
But that's some of the ways we can do it. So if we set it up to do, you know, add quarterly, send a letter out or an email out to the chairman of the committee and say, hey, report back to us, but for our next meeting, let us know what you're doing, how you're doing it. You know, that's fine, but that will be helpful to us and the town. And I think people would be better off knowing that something's happening. It's just not 700 pages of document that's just sitting on somebody's desk.
Right. Agreed.
I think it's interesting that us folks and you folks and the planning board are so well aware of the Lakeville Hospital project. The majority of the people that I went to go door to door to get my 66s have no idea what's going on.
Right.
They have first of all, they don't even know what the Lakeville Hospital is. Then they don't even know what they're doing. It's amazing. Now, I'm not implying that these people are, you know, not interested or stupid or anything like that, but I think that there's either that or they don't get the paper, or they're too, you know, with all the lifestyle changes. The bottom line is the majority of people have no idea what the Lakeville Hospital project is. And if they don't know what the Lakeville Hospital project is, they sure have no idea of some of the other things that you folks and the planning board people are doing, which is too bad.
Yep.
And you know, when you talk about transparency and all of this, these people have no idea either. Well, I'll just leave it at that. I mean, I don't know what their motivation is. I just know that the majority of people have no idea what's going on. It's too bad.
Yeah.
Because we're out here knocking ourselves out to improve the town, and nobody knows what we're doing. A good number of people don't.
I mean, I don't mind, you know, taking on the first couple just to do a check with the various committees and asking the questions. It's not something I want to do permanently, but on the other hand, if we start the process, it can be easily, you know, continued. But we got to do something to get it updated in that particular process.
Yeah, and Rita, I will defer to you about procedural, where Jim has volunteered, and I mean, we all can do it. The question is there a formal process to request the update? Do we have to get on their agenda to get the updates, or is there another legal way for those updates to get to us without breaking the open meeting laws?
Well, Jim could call, contact or email the chairman of the planning board or whichever, or if it's conservation. He can be in contact with a member and ask them to put it on their agenda.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's free to, you know.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate that.
It may also be worth, once we update some of the action plans, to just send them, especially at least those that the committees that have items on here on the action plan, to send them at least the chairperson a copy of the action plan or the updated one, so that
Yeah,
a lot of turnover on the committees too. So
absolutely.
Good thought.
Okay.
If I may, if you look at our 2020 timeline, Jim, you could call our highway superintendent on the fourth one, transportation and circulation,
Mhm.
just to see if he's updated the pavement management plan. I believe he has a program that it gets updated, and number one has already been done, hire a town planner, there's funding for that. I guess, go down, if we look at, I thought we'd have more to do in 2020, but just to give you an idea, Jim, what you could do.
Well, I'll take a look at the plan, and what I may do for the sake of trying to figure out is, the first time around, contact each of the committees that contributed. Then afterwards, then we can begin to look at where people are flowing. Okay.
All right. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right.
So Rodney, I'll get the Word document, update it, and get it to all the board members.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Any other discussion? Okay. Agenda item 6, discuss next steps. I think we kind of did.
To get ahead of ourselves there.
I know, right? Hey, it's not a bad thing.
That's good.
All right. And then schedule the next 3 meetings. Care to do that right now? Everyone have their calendars?
Yep.
Oops. Of course, it'd help if I turn mine on. Does Wednesday, does this day of the week work for everyone? I know we've had Tuesdays in the past and we've now had the Wednesdays. Is this okay?
Yeah.
Wednesdays
Yeah.
work for me
Works for
generally.
me.
Okay. Yeah, works for me too. So let's do Wednesday. And again, my apology. I'm having trouble here with the with my technology. It's not working now.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
On with second Wednesday of the month.
Yeah, I think actually that works.
So that would be March 9th, April 14th, and May 12th.
Be March 10th, wouldn't it?
Well, sure, if you want to meet on Wednesday.
Ah, why not? That's pretty funny. All right. So you said March 10th?
March 10th, April 14th,
Yep.
and May the 12th.
May 12th.
That works.
And I'll see if Nate Darling can attend our March 10th.
Good.
Okay. All right, that works. Thank you so much. That was painless. Okay. Any new business to come before Mpeg? Hearing none, we'll move forward to old business. Is there any old business? Hearing none, final. Any other business that may properly come before the meeting? Hearing none. Does someone want to make?
I will move to adjourn.
Okay, anyone want to second that?
Second.
Okay, so we're gonna do the roll call, the aye, all the ayes. Aye, Rodney Dixon.
James Rogers, aye.
Joe Chamberlain, aye.
Patrick Marshall, aye.
Jacqueline Ty. Jacqueline
And
Ty.
Rita, aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to LakeCAM for filming this and setting up the Zoom. We greatly appreciate it.